Good morning, y'all. Or it's afternoon. Is it afternoon? It's afternoon. Noon is afternoon, yeah? So, first of all, let me apologize for my hair. It's having its own kind of day today. I have no idea what's going on with it. It's being, I don't know. I don't know what it's being. So, that being said, let me clear my stupid things here. And I didn't turn anything on silent because that's how I roll today. It is that kind of day, loves. Absolutely here. And no one told me when I got an iPhone it would be super easy to forget that I have my phone on silent. I now forgive anybody who has an iPhone who I've griped out for not answering my call or my text. Because holy fuck balls, I turn the silent on and I forget about it. And I'm like, why is my phone not going off? Why am I not getting texts? Like, my phone rings all the time. But let's get into past life reads. Yes, because today is mini past life reads. So I'm going to get all comfy here. For those of you guys that are just kind of seeing me on here on live and so on, my list is full today because these were prepaid. I will schedule just a little bit, let's see, a little bit in advance. So here's the thing. My August is kind of stupid with my travel schedule. So what I'm going to be doing is, instead of scheduling so many lives at night, on the days I'm not traveling, I'm going to be scheduling some during the day. I'm going to be doing that over the next couple of days. So that way you guys can go on the site, on the events page on thebluebodhi.com. And if you would like to get a past life reading or whatever I've got scheduled, I will schedule more past lives and I will schedule some bone readings and so on. You don't have to be here to have your reading done because I stream everything on YouTube. So you guys can go back and watch it later at your convenience. And yes, I will be going through and putting everybody's name, just your first name and maybe your last initial, because some people have the same first name, and then a timestamp so you guys know exactly where your reading is. You don't have to listen to everybody else's unless you just want to. But that being said, let's jump into this because I have 2 hours to get 20 readings done. Let's see if I can. Y'all know I'm going to go over 2 hours. I know I'm going to go over 2 hours. Is what it is. All right. So these are just mini past life readings. I haven't used this deck in a while, and I'm not going to lie. When I got it out, I felt a little giddily excited. It missed me, and I missed it. So for those of you guys that don't know what deck this is, I'm trying to find some to order for the shop of the decks that I have personally, because I know you guys like seeing them. This is the Dark Goddess deck, and it's all goddesses all the time. And it is, oh, look, there's my girl, Kali. It is one of my absolute favorite decks. I love it. I love it. So, so first I have Miss Veronica. Thank you for the gift, love. You're so sweet. I am going to go kind of fast today, just so I can get through everybody's. For those of you guys that don't know, I'm in the middle of moving both to a shop and to a new place. It's kind of weird that, I mean, I'm excited to move, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's kind of weird. I'm usually a pretty public person, but I'm realizing, even though I'm not a humongous creator on TikTok, I'm realizing that there are some crazy people out there. So. Woo, okay, Veronica, shit. Oh, okay. So, guys, when I do past life readings, when I do the mini past life readings, this is the past life that's affecting you the most right now, in this moment in time. And some of you guys on my list, I've done personal readings for. I know you a little bit. So it's funny to me when I see certain things pop up, and I know Miss Veronica is going to watch this on YouTube later, and I know you're going to crack up when you see some of these things. Just trust me. Just trust me, okay? So first of all, I'm going to show you guys the cards. when I do my past life readings, I'm just going to explain a little bit so you guys will know. The way that I do them, I'm super connected to my cards. Like, cards are they're my thing. They're my jam. This is how I do all my readings, even mediumship, how I pull people in. But with past lives, it's like I pull this out, and here's where I have to be careful, because when I get everything laid out in front of me, the only way I can explain it is I take a deep breath, and all of a sudden it's like I see this whole life in the span of just a few seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. So I have to pick out the areas that glow to me because they're important. I may not understand why they're important, but you will understand. Does that make sense? So there you go. There you go. So I have to pick out what's important. So a lot of times, especially with past life readings, I have to make sure that I pick out the little bit of things that are on there. So for my mods on TikTok, is there anybody that can jump over to YouTube for me, pretty please? All right. Miss Veronica, here we go. I'm going to show you the cards, and then we're going to get into it. So you really have this card right off the bat. This is persuasion, but what I was giggling about is this is a Japanese deity. For those of you guys who don't know, Miss Veronica lives in Japan. She's from the US, but right now she is in Japan. We've had a few talks about this, me and her. Then you have the Sorcerer, and then you have Masquerade. Thank you, Miss Raven. I appreciate that. Then you have the Perfect Storm. And this is a card that I don't see very much in this deck. And I'm going to leave this card over here for just a minute. So let me just say that a lot of this has been affecting you for a while. It's going to continue to affect you for a while. Before I get into details, these things are important, okay? So, where you are right now physically in life is important. And you and I have had a talk before about there being a place there that you needed to go, you need to experience, etc. I have a feeling there's more than one that you're drawn to. This life here also is why you feel this need to be two separate things at the same time. You feel the need to be the norm, to fit in. Then you also feel the need to be this other completely separate person underneath. And it's not that you have a split personality. It's not that you have a personality disorder. It's none of that. It's just you feel this need. You have to be two separate people. And you've always been that. But now it's intense to the point that you've probably been questioning, like, is there something wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you, sweetheart. In this life here in particular, I would put this back around the early 1200s, like right around the turn of that century. And in this, the things that I pick up from it, if you had been born in a normal family, a regular family in a larger village, you would have been taken and trained in a temple, etc., because you had amazing gifts and abilities from the time you were born. I have a feeling you have them now, because this life is mirroring what's going on right now, or what's going on right now is mirroring that, whichever way you look at it. But you have these amazing gifts and abilities that are really starting to pop up because you were born in a smaller village here, because you didn't have a lot of people around you that recognize these gifts, and because your family had no way to get you to a temple, to a monastery, etc., to be trained to use them. you basically were told to kind of quash them a little bit. So you had to be two different people. You had to pretend to be normal. But yet, as you got older, your family would make sure that they would use your gifts to their advantage. Does that make sense? So you were born a woman in this life that we're talking about now. For some reason here, you never got married. I'm unsure why. There's a refusal here. You never had kids in this life. You never got married. The other part is that I don't see you living very long, maybe past 32, 33. There's not a violent death here. I have a feeling that it was probably something more like a genetic condition, something that there was no way to really diagnose then. So I have a feeling that that's probably why you didn't get married or anything like that. You're a very beautiful person here. You're a very, very beautiful woman here. So it's not that you weren't desirable or anything like that. I have the feeling that you told your parents from the time you were little that there was something wrong and that they didn't quite believe you until it was kind of too late. So you in this life right here were taught that you have to always appear outwardly to be normal and perfect, but yet inwardly you need to be what they need you to be at that time. Does that make sense? It's kind of like them saying, don't use your gifts only for us. Don't tell people what you're seeing. Don't tell people what you can do, but do it for us. Like you had this push and pull. So here's why this is affecting you so badly right now. This is the trust card. And this one flipped out of the deck and onto the floor, and I made sure to pick it up exactly how it landed. So when things are whopper-jawed like this, especially upside down, that means it's going like this. So this right here tells me that the longer you've been there, the longer you've been in Japan, this life has been affecting you. It's been pulling you to go to certain places, to experience certain things that either touched you in this life or that you didn't get to experience in this life that your soul needed to experience. What it also tells me is that you're developing trust issues because of it. It has nothing really to do with the life now, with you now. What it has to do with is then. Because you found out that you really couldn't trust anyone in this life here. They did not have your best interest in mind. All they wanted to do was use your gifts for them, etc. So, you're developing some severe trust issues being over there. And I'm glad that this is the life that popped up, especially that, because I have a feeling that this has been coming up a lot lately and you don't understand why you have them. You know what I mean? You don't understand why you have them. It has nothing to do with your life now, sweetheart. So when these are popping up, especially, in your relationship, in your work, in your friends or family, whatever, know that it's not them. It's you being there to process through this. It's something your soul never got to process in this life, which is why it's popping up now. So, at least you know, and now when these things pop up, you can go, okay. This is something my soul needs to process. It's not what's going on now. Gives you that separation that you can kind of pull apart and be like, okay, all right, cool. So, I hope that helps, Miss Veronica. And I know you and I have personally talked about you experiencing certain places there and going to certain places that you feel called to go. You need to do that. You need to do that. Go everywhere that you can, that your soul is called to go while you're there, because it's important. Even if it's a place where you're like, I don't know why I need to go here. Go. So, I hope that helps, sugar. And like I said, just know that these developing trust issues are not because of anything going on in your life right now. It's because of then. Because of then. So, Miss Mariah White is next. So for those of you guys just joining, my list is closed for today. I will be putting another one on in the next, well, it'll be on my list in the next couple of days. So that way you guys can grab a ticket, because I've got to really plan my August out. No. Oh, Miss Mariah. What are you doing right now with your life cards? What are you doing? Okay. All right, Miss Mariah. You have the destruction card. You have Kali. Then you have the heart of the sky. Then you have alone in the world. See where we're going with this? Then you have happiness upside down. Then you had these two come out like this. This is get creative and the sovereign upside down. So, Miss Mariah. Okay. So this is actually your life directly before this one. And I keep getting 88, 1888, 1888, 1888. Why are 8s important? 8s and 4s are very important to you for some reason. Things happen to you in 8s and 4s. Your soul is very binary in that it's very numerical. Okay. So, in this life right here, it's like I almost got the name, so I'm trying to pull it. I'm like, no, you can't just tease me with it and then pull it away. So for those of you guys that have never watched me or seen me do past life readings or anything like that, I've been doing them a very long time. I've actually been able to give people names, dates, etc., and they have found themselves. So hopefully that name will pull back in front of me, Mariah. In this life here, there's a lot in a short amount of time. Does that make sense? A lot in a short amount of time. I'm just going to tell you here, you don't live past about 12. 11 or 12. This is such an intense, hard life for you that your soul took a pretty good break between that and now. Like your soul had a lot to process. So let me say this, guys. Souls and reincarnation work the easiest way to explain it is kind of like going to school, in that you have to start at pre-K and go all the way up to senior in high school. You have things you have to accomplish throughout those lives. Everybody gets a good vacation life. Like you have the life where everything is handed to you and perfect and hunky-dory. And everybody has lives where they're just filled with hardship and strife. And everybody has lives where they pass away as a child. And you have to experience, your soul has to experience all of everything, the good and the bad. It has to have that balance. With this life right here, Miss Mariah, everything around you from the time you were about 3, was just turmoil and destruction. Lost your mom at 3. Lost your dad around 6. There's an aunt in here somewhere who is not kind. And I don't know if this is an aunt that you were sent to live with after losing your last parent. I don't know, because I don't see her a tremendous amount. What I see is movement, 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 movement. From, you know, the house that you were in up to about 3, to not having a mom, to getting moved before your dad passes away, and then getting moved to two to 3 different houses before this humongous house. And the humongous house is not a nice place. It is not a nice place. So this house in general, I would say, is somewhere down in the south, because I see pillars in the front, such as like a plantation house. There's also moss. This is the south. I would say probably southern Alabama, just from the way everything looks, and only because... First, here's what's funny. Even though I can see the house very plainly, and the house is white, and it's beautiful, it's dark at the same time. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Just looking at the house makes me shiver inside. It's not a good place. And so in being in this house, you're kind of left alone. It's better that you're not seen or heard, is kind of the feeling I get. So with that, that's where this aloneness comes from. That's where this sadness comes from. That's where this feeling of not belonging, of not being loved comes from. And this is affecting you now, because these things are still popping up for no reason. Like, you can be in the middle of an amazing space, an amazing relationship, amazing family get-togethers and so on, but still it's like there's this little hole in here where you feel completely set aside from everybody. You can be in the middle of a room of 100 people that just adore you and love you, and they're there celebrating things, and you literally feel like you're out here in this little spot. It's because of this. Because this was so tough that your soul is still kind of processing through it. Now, I'm still trying to pull the name. What's interesting, it does start with an M. It's M-A something. And I would say that you probably pass away right at 1900, right at the turn of the century. And for some reason, May sticks out tremendously. And I want to cry. And I sometimes hate doing past life readings because I want to cry. So you are buried on this family property. And it is family. I have a feeling this is an aunt. You are buried on this family property, and you do have a headstone there. The headstone's still visible. It's very well done, because apparently the aunt, this family, has plenty of wealth. So I don't know why this is important, but it is. So I'm going to describe this to you, okay? So my eye itches really bad, sorry. The tombstone itself, it's, I would say probably, what's this, about 3 foot wide? You can't see on the camera, sorry. About 3 foot wide. It comes up and it has, okay, so it comes up, it has a flat spot, and then it has a point, and then it has these 2 like really gorgeous little filigree points. They're broken at this point, but like the tips are broken. Does that make sense? But it's like these little, they almost look like tulips, but they're closed like this. But on the tombstone itself, it has your name, but it doesn't really say anything else but your name, your birthday, and the day you passed away. But what's interesting is your birthday doesn't have a day. It just has the month and the year. So it's March 1888. May 5th, 1900. So I can't see the last name, and it's kind of driving me up the wall. But the first name is M.A., and it's a little bit longer than what Mariah would be. And the last name is actually pretty long. 9 to 10 letters long. Like it's a pretty long last name. So why this is affecting you so much right now is because of these two things right here. It's costing you your creativity. When this stuff pops up, it's like you feel unwanted again. And so it's costing you your creativity. It's also costing you this. This is queen energy. This is believing that you deserve these things. This is believing that you're a badass. This is believing that self-confidence and so on. So it's costing you that. The reason, usually when something like this pops up, the reason that I get enough detail is there's closure that has to happen there. I can't see how you passed away. I can't see how you passed away. It has something to do with something you ingested. And I don't know if this is an allergy or if this was on purpose. I don't know. But it's something you ingested. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So, Miss Mariah, I hope this helps. I hope this helps. Especially the dates. So, there's closure that has to happen here to close this part out for your soul to move on. Does that make sense? Alrighty. And I love you, Miss Mariah. I'm just letting you know. All right, Miss Julie Tibbs. Yeah, that was a pretty heavy reading. That's one thing that sucks about some past life readings is that they get a little heavy sometimes. Yeah, I'm on the Mountain Dew again today. Y'all been warned. All right, Miss Julie Tibbs. Really? Really? Julie, you got a lot of shit affecting you right now. I just need the one. Okay, cool. Thank you. So one thing, guys, let me say this. Because I have a lot of people ask me about past life regression. I don't ever recommend doing past life regression unless this person is a licensed therapist, counselor, etc. Here's why. I've been doing this a while. When you go through past lives and you are dealing with things that pop up, especially how you passed away, I have seen people freak out. I have seen people freak out during past life regressions. It's kind of like having a guide that knows what they're doing on a spiritual trip. If you go into a past life regression and you are experiencing a horrible way that your soul died, that's some intense trauma right there. It's intense trauma. You are reliving it. I have seen people freak out about it, okay? In the moment. If you don't have a therapist, a counselor, etc., that is right there that can help pull you out, and I'm not saying they have to be a therapist or counselor, but they have to be someone experienced in how to help you. And how to help you. There was someone here in the Tulsa area that was doing past life regressions, and they were charging a lot, like $350. And they had no idea how to help the person come back out or process it. And so I had so many people coming to me that were fucked up because of that. So please, please, please do your research before you ever book a past life regression with someone. Okay? Do your research. How long have they been doing it? How skilled are they? What kind of certifications do they hold, etc. Be careful with that, guys, okay? I'm just saying. So, Miss Julie, you have guilt upside down. You have the journey. You have blinded to pain. Then you have connectivity. We'll talk about that last card last. What's interesting about these cards right off the bat is I notice it's green, yellow, yellow, green. And there's lots of threes here. So I'm trying to pinpoint date-wise before I start, but I'm just going to start and we'll get the date after I go, I guess, because it's obviously not that important. Sometimes it irritates me. I'm like, I need dates, man. I need this structured. I need structure. My Capricorn self needs structure. Okay, but it's not structured. Okay, so I love that you said 3 is your number. I just barely saw that. So here's the thing. This life here, it affected your soul in a good way, in a very good way. So part of what's going on with you right now is some of this good coming back out. Thank you, Miss Daphne Pooh. Some of this good is coming in to help you in your current situation where you're leaving one part of your life and moving on, ascending, etc. So when you started your spiritual journey in this life now, it felt safe. It felt correct. It felt right. In fact, it felt so comfortable that as you've been on this journey and the more things change, it's like makes you happy. It makes you happy. Like, I'm not saying that it's not scary a little bit, but it makes you happy. So it's because your soul has experienced this before and it's helping you now in what you're experiencing. Does that make sense? Fucking thank you, finally. I'm like, I just need a fucking number, man. So I actually don't think in this life that you know or knew the exact year you were born. Because what I got first when I was like, I just need a number. I just need a number so I can understand what I'm seeing here. So I got 14, but then it's almost like a question mark between 30 and 34. I don't think you knew how old you were. I don't think anybody really kept track of how old you were in this life. So in this life, you were born male. And you actually had a very good childhood for the time. You had both parents. You have 3 brothers. So I feel sorry for your mom for having 4 boys. But you had a good childhood. Your parents were kind. Yeah, you worked your ass off with your brothers, your dad, etc. A lot of this is farming. A lot of this is that kind of heavy work. But you had a wonderful childhood for this time period. You had a wonderful childhood for this time period. I don't get that you lived anywhere close to a town, to a village, to a city. This is like way out there. But your parents felt that they needed to be out there. They didn't need to be around people. I have the feeling that your parents both experienced a lot of discrimination. They had a lot of issues because I see your mother in this glowing, bright, bluey white light, which tells me she was a very spiritually connected person, probably was accused of being a witch, a healer, etc. And she was very, very protective of all of you. Your father is red. He has a red light, which tells me he's very action oriented and go, 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 go. And he instilled that in you guys. Why am I getting colors? It's so funny because your brothers show up like this: yellow, green, you're blue, and then the oldest one is red. So you're the second. That's interesting. Rarely do I have a family show up as colors like that. But you guys, you boys knew, like your mom taught you guys all the things. I told you my hair, I don't know what the fuck it's doing. Your mom taught you all the different herbs around that you could use for different things. Your mom taught you all of the different trees and barks. Like, you knew everything about where you lived. Your dad also taught you guys to hunt. Like, you had no problem surviving if they weren't there. But the thing is, like, your parents live a pretty long life here. So do you boys. Like, this was really just a wonderful life. It really was. I don't see you getting married until like late teens, 19, 20-ish. Because you guys just don't live anywhere close by. You just don't. Your older brother gets married and you get married. Your youngest brother does not. That's this third brother here. I'm trying to see because he for some reason he leaves like about 16. I don't know if he decides to go. So I don't know, but about 16 he leaves. He doesn't die. He just travels. He just leaves. And it's not from animosity or anything like that. He just wants to experience, and your parents, you know, don't like it, but allow him to go. Your youngest brother never gets married, but you older two do. And you in particular move with your family there and build a house on that land. So your wife has a beautiful smile. She has these big high cheekbones, big old rosy cheeks, and this just wide, beautiful smile. I can see why you were attracted to her. She is just a beautiful soul, and she glows this beautiful pink color. So you literally raise your children until your parents pass away. They're right there. Your parents just pass away from old age, things like this is really a good life, Julie. Like, it's really a good life. And so you were taught to be spiritual from the time you were little here. And I have a feeling that's why nobody really kept track of what year you were born. You knew like what moon phase you were born under, but you didn't really know what year you were born. So here's what's interesting about this. Because even though this right here is fantastic and it's affecting you now because that journey is comfortable, this is kind of out of place. This is destruction. It's out of place and it's not. Okay, let me say it that way. This is the destruction card. So why this is affecting you so much right now, part of it is that journey, is being comfortable and moving forward with your journey. The other part, though, is you never got the chance in this life to have the old part of you be obliterated, to move into a new phase. That's what's happening now. So even though that spiritual journey is comfortable and you're happy to do it, like the more it happens, you're like, ah, you never got to experience the destruction of the old you. And I say destruction, but you know what I mean. It's not like this obliteration of yourself. It's just everybody goes through this when you go through a spiritual journey. You have to allow that old part of you to be back there. You have to let that part be destructed. Does that make sense? So you can be who you need to be. So that's the main thing you have to experience in this life. Is allowing that old part of you to be gone. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Y'all see why these can sometimes take me a while and why I have to make myself do. Because otherwise I'm like blah, blah, blah. So yeah. All right, Miss Claudine Moreno. So my first 5, if you guys ever get tickets for anything, the first 5 usually get just a little bit more. The tickets cost more. So I'm just letting y'all know. That's saw you there. Part of me wants to go through and like make sure all my decks are right side up, but I know that would affect the reading, so don't do it. All right. But the Capricorn part of me is like, they're upside down. All right. I digress. All right. Miss Claudine, you start off with the creation card. Then you have the owl. Then you have bride in a cage. Then you have the drifter, which is experiencing life as it comes. So, and this one, it's so funny because there are so many parallels, just because I know I've done a few readings for you. There's so many parallels here as to what you're dealing with now. But let me say the overwhelming thing with this one is that it's okay to kind of be a drifter. It's okay to be a loner. It's okay, like your soul, that's what your soul likes. Your soul likes its alone time. Your soul likes to be able to just do what you want to do on a whim. Your soul likes to be able to create what you need to create. Okay. Okay. So this is a very old life. This is very old. So I'm going to put this one back. It's a little hard to pinpoint sometimes when you get so far back. Thank you, Bear Bear. Hey, thank you, buddy. I would say this is probably 860 something BC. And this is in the Middle East, but not Egypt. It's not Greece. Okay. So I don't know. Okay, so if you're looking at the edge of the Mediterranean over here, and you have Egypt down here, you have Greece up here, you have what's Turkey now, you have Israel. It's here. So I don't know if this would be modern day Saudi Arabia or Iraq. I think it would probably be Saudi Arabia. And what's funny is there's a lot of movement here between two places. So there's a lot of movement here between a place by the ocean and place where it's like nothing. You took a lot of like walkabouts. So here, you're very, I want to say brave. Let me just say it that way. I want to say brave. You're born a woman here, and you literally just take off walking. Just take off traveling. Don't care what anybody says. You just do it. You're also a very tall woman, so you can wrap up and pass as a man if you have to. But for the most part, you avoid people. You literally avoid people at all costs in this life. Not for any particular reason. There's no trauma here. There's no issue with it. It's just, you just avoid people. You're born to a pretty wealthy family here. You're born to like very wealthy family. I wouldn't say ruling class, but pretty far up there. And you're one of 6 girls. You're one of 6 girls. Your father is kind of irritated because there are no boys. but you're one of 6 girls. You are the middle. Well, you're 4. Number 4. Number 4. You see how my words work? You're 4. And you're kind of your dad's favorite. I have a feeling you're your dad's favorite because you just don't look like the others. You don't. They're small, they're very petite. You are really tall. You are broad-shouldered, like more like a boy would be. And so your dad kind of takes more of a liking to you. And I know, I mean, it is what it is. But you're kind of allowed to just do whatever the hell you want. Whereas your sisters are forced to get married and so on. You are not. Mostly because you just leave. You just are like, nope, and walk off. You just literally walk off. So let me say this. Eventually, you are forced to get married, but it's not until you're older. And it's because your dad doesn't trust any of your sisters. Your dad doesn't trust any of their husbands. Like, there's a lot of land, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of things involved here, and he literally does not trust any of them. So when you do get married, it's literally when you're almost 30 and you're married to an older person. It's just an arranged marriage. Like, I have a feeling that the man doesn't even like women. He's one of the main advisors to your father, and your dad trusts him. And it makes your sisters, especially your older sisters, extremely unhappy when this happens, because basically all of the stuff that your dad owns, has, rules over, whatever. Rules is not the right word, but you know what I'm saying. Kind of like a lord would be in Europe. It's all handed to you and this advisor. And so your sisters are extremely unhappy about it. There's a ton of animosity there. Because in you being the dad's favorite, you got to do what you wanted. You literally got to walk. You got to do what you wanted. Whereas your older sisters and your younger sisters, they were prim and proper, and they had to be this way. Like, your mom groomed them to be wives and so on. So there's a lot of animosity there. And once you are married and you and your husband take over things, your father passes away about a year later. And you try to take care of your mother and so on. I mean, like, it's the animosity that happens after your father passes away is just bad. It's bad. It does put a halt to you traveling. It puts a halt to you doing whatever you'd like to do. So I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry about that. And I think that's why now in this life, you're like, nope, doing what I want to do. Doing what I want to do. That's what your soul needs to do. That's what your soul is happiest doing. So here's the thing. Here's why this is affecting you so bad now, and then we're going to get to the ending part. So this is the manifest card, and it's upside down. You never got to manifest some of the things in this life that your soul wanted to do. I have a feeling that you've done them in this life. I have a feeling you've already accomplished those things in this life, but there's a couple of things left. I don't know what they are, and I wish I could pinpoint them for you, because they're literally two things. Two things. So I would recommend really paying attention to your dreams. I would recommend doing some guided meditations to see if you can go into your Akashic records and see these things, etc. Because they're literally two things. And for now, for this time, it's easy. It's easy for you to accomplish them. So let's talk about passing away here, okay? Because you don't have kids here either. What's interesting, though, is there is a little boy. I don't know if he is an orphan or what. There is a little boy here. And the first time he appears in your life, he's 8. So there is a boy here who you pretty much raise as yours. So like I said, I don't know if he's an orphan. I don't know. But ending wise here, this is not a bad one. You don't live a crazy, like super long life. But when he's about 12, you just don't wake up one morning. So, I mean, it's probably the best way possible to pass away, right? You just don't wake up one morning. But what I feel like is important, and what I feel like I need to tell you that maybe your soul didn't get to understand or experience or whatever, is that your husband continues to raise this young man, and he kind of continues the family line from there. And even though you only had 4 short years with this child, you made such a huge impact on him, and you kind of turned his way of looking at humans around, if that makes sense. He becomes an amazing leader because of you. And I feel like your soul needed to know that. So, I hope that helps, Miss Claudine. It's always nice to get closure for something like that. I don't know. Closure is sometimes what we need the most of. So let me see here. All right. Miss Brienne Rapinski. And then I think that is my last one of my first 5. So, all right, Miss Brienne, you ready? So for those of you guys that are asking about readings, I will be doing another mini past life reads coming up. I do not have them on my calendar yet. I have to sit down over the next couple days and get my calendar sorted out. I do these prepaid. You guys don't have to be here because I do stream them live on YouTube as well. So you can always go watch them on YouTube later. Nope. Yeah. Ooh, thank ya. Not doing 15, man. And I will also go through, for those of you guys that mainly watch me on YouTube versus TikTok, I will also go through and make sure that my schedule is linked on my YouTube. It should be, but I will go through and make sure, so that way you guys have a chance to get tickets as well. All right, Miss Brienne, you ready? So you start off with hubris, which is health. It's actually kind of some interesting things there. Okay, so then you have the Holy Mountain. Then you have Black Flower Fragrance. Then you have Reconciliations. So, Miss Brienne, let me say this. Let me say this. You weren't the nicest person in this life. You weren't the nicest person in this life. You kind of were the woman that everyone was afraid of. You were the woman that no one really wanted to cross, that no one wanted to tell no. Wow. This one right here is back, I would say, late 1600s, early 1700s. I would put this southeastern London area, because the things I see here are all very elegant. They're all, and that's not why I put it in southeastern London, but it's a very upscale, nice area. Like, I could probably describe your house to a T here. And I will let you know, you preferred dark colors. You preferred blacks and browns and blues and darker colors here. In a way, this was a vacation life, and not at the same time. Because here, you're born to a wealthy family. You marry an even wealthier person, and everything just grows from there. Like, You never have a time in this life here where you want for anything, where you want for money, where you want for food. Like, everything is literally handed to you on a silver platter from the time you're born to the time you pass away in this life. However, because of that, and because of, I'm trying to get more of who your husband is, because your father's a very powerful person, but the person that you marry is even more so. So because of who you marry, that is why people are afraid to tell you no. And here's the other thing here. From the time you're born in this life, even before you have a chance to have the tutors and, you know, prim and proper, like, you're a prim and proper person. You're very rigid and things have to be a certain way. Like, you expect things to be a certain way. And I don't think some of it, it's not all that, you know, you're just being an ass. It's just you expect them a certain way. You grow up expecting certain things. You grow up experiencing certain things. And so that's the way they have to be. They have to be this way. Tea is served at this time. This is the china that's used. This is the, so, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's rigid. Even your husband is this way. So what's interesting about it is a lot of, okay, so when you get married here, you're probably around 18, 19. And when you get married here, he's, I would say 23-ish, because he's a little bit older than you. And his family is very powerful, has a lot of money, and he already has a very high up position in the family company, basically. But as you get older, because you live a pretty long life here, like, you have access to all of the medical treatments, to like everything, top of the line, everything. When he takes over the company, when he finally moves up and he is in charge, you've watched for about 7-8 years here on how things were run in that company. And so you're able to give him advice. Like, you're an extremely intelligent woman. You're just very rigid in what you want, but you are extremely intelligent here. And strategizing with business, I think, is probably something you got from your father, because I don't see your mother being that way. Your mother is more flighty, artsy, so on. You actually really did not get along with your mother at all. Like, you didn't like her way of just flowing through life. But you're able to give him advice and so on. And of course, him being exactly like you, it makes a lot of sense. So he implements it, etc. So more money, more business, blah, blah, blah. Like, girl, you're like to be feared in this life. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's affecting you now. Some of the decisions you made here. And I don't know, you don't have children. You don't have children. And what's funny is you kind of decide you're not having children. There's not a crazy sex life here, but he does want at least, you know, a son or something. He wants a child. But it's like, in your mind, you decide, I'm not having a child, and so therefore you never get pregnant. It's funny, because I don't feel like there's a medical reason why you shouldn't have gotten pregnant. You literally decided that was the case. So with this, though, with this life here, you have some things that you have to process and you have to deal with as far as the shadow part of your soul goes, if that makes sense. And I probably should plug the other phone in over here that is streaming to YouTube. I didn't realize I didn't have it plugged in. Let me pause real quick. And I'm sorry, YouTube, y'all are going to get a little jarred here. There we go. Otherwise, I'm going to lose you. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to lose you. There we go. So, with this, the things you kind of have to process through. And the best way that I can recommend to do this, because it's not like you can just go back and process that trauma with a therapist, you know, or process these things. Some of the literally the best way to do this is to do some of the meditations on YouTube. I don't recommend guided ones unless you need that structure. But if you do a guided one, I would recommend it getting you there and then allowing you to step through the portal to go here. But just the rigid way you lived, you have to kind of let go of some of that now. I have a feeling it's starting to creep back into your life now, where there's some things that you can't explain why you're so rigid on this, why you're so set that it has to be this way, or why you feel like you have to give advice, people have to do it this way. Does that make sense? Like, that rigidity is starting to really set in. So you're going to have to start dealing with that. The other part is, there's just a lot here that you were very hard on people for. And I think at the time you kind of had to be that way, but I think that it weighs on your soul a little bit because I don't get that you're this way now. So I think when this rigidity and this harshness starts to set in because your soul wants to kind of, it's like, hey, we're going to do this again. It bothers you. Does that make sense? Like, it bothers you. So you're going to have to start processing through this a little bit. So, interesting life to pull up here, Brienne. Interesting life to pull up here, Brienne. I hope that helps. And so know that when these rigid things are pulling up in your life, it's not you. It's this. It's this soaking back through because you never really had... Closure is not the right word. You never really had like a cutoff for it. Does that make sense? You never kind of like eased back down into something. Does that make sense? You just started rigid, you stayed rigid, and you ended rigid. I would bet that you probably even argued with death when he came for you. Was like, no, I don't have time for this. I have to do blah, blah, blah. I would bet you argued. I would bet you argued. So... I mean, the thing here is I don't see there being a really horrible ending either. I keep, like, when I focus on that end part, it's like I feel heavy here. So I imagine it was probably something with your heart. But I don't see something long drawn out. I don't see something really painful. I would imagine it's probably a heart attack. So you're welcome for the reading, love. Alrighty. So my next three are Paige, Amanda, and Jeff. And these ones are going to be a little smaller. Those first five were obviously my first five readings, and they pay a little more, so they got just a tiny bit more there, or just a lot more. So, all right. So this right here is for Miss Paige. Ooh, that's too many. I saw you there. You don't get to jump up at me and then go back in the deck. Ooh, Paige. What's funny is I can already see the first card here, and I'm like, oh my God. So seeing all these cards pop up the way that these are doing, it's kind of cracking me up, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, thank you, love. It's a little harder for me to pay attention to some of the comments when I'm doing these. So I apologize if I don't see or answer your comments, guys. All right. Miss Paige, you ready? So you start off with the drama card. So now you see why I was giggling when all those cards kept like, all the cards. Just saying. Then you have the upper world. Then you have, is this me? Then you have abundance. And we'll talk about that last one last. So it's not that you were the drama here. It's that there was just a lot of turmoil and a lot of drama around this life, your younger life especially. Okay. So, interesting. So, this life right here, you're born female. I would put this one around 1812, 1813 of you being born. There's a lot of turmoil, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of movement from the time that you're, I would say, 5-ish. Well, really before then, but you don't really remember. The movement is more until you're 5. And then from 5 to about 13, there's just a lot of arguing and fighting, and somebody in your house likes to throw things, and you kind of duck and cover. You are that kid that learns to make yourself scarce when this happens. So I would bet now this affects you in that when people are fighting, arguing, yelling, you kind of make yourself scarce. You kind of make yourself scarce. You do not like conflict. It's a trigger for you. Even though I don't feel like you've been around it a ton in this life, it's a trigger, and you vominos. So, what's interesting here, something happens when you're 13. I don't know what it is you get ill with, but your fever gets really high, and your parents are pretty sure that they're going to lose you, and they actually do. Like, you actually die and come back. Your fever is so high, they have a doctor come in who gives you a certain medicine. Like, they have 2 or 3 doctors come to check on you. The third one that comes in has to kind of force feed you this medicine. He notices that your breathing is super shallow. He notices that, like, he literally tells your parents they're gonna lose you, but he would like to try this. Like, he gives you, and I don't know what it is, but it is this really gnarly brown liquid. I swear it almost looks like very thinned out molasses. It's not, but it's nasty. Like, I think the taste alone would have brought you back. That kind of nasty. But you're gone. Like, you're gone for a good 2 to 3 minutes here. So when you come back, you literally just wake up the next morning. Your fever has broke. You wake up the next morning. You're asking for bread. Like, your parents are astounded that you woke up. But you're a completely different person. You're a completely different child. Teenager, excuse me. So any of you guys that have experienced a near-death experience where your body has physically died and you have been brought back, you understand that. You are an absolute different person. So what's funny is when you get better, and it actually takes you about a year to get better. This fever and everything just wrecked your physical self. You actually have an issue looking in the reflective surfaces. Like, you don't recognize yourself here. And everybody around at first is like, they think it's some holy experience that you've experienced. And so they want to come see you and talk to you and see what you saw and blah, 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 blah. But it gets to the point where you start to be considered almost like this celebrity. Your parents kind of take that as an opportunity, your dad especially. Because even though you had a really weird, turmoil-filled childhood, you guys are decent off. I would say middle class. You know what I mean? Like, middle class now. So he sees this as an opportunity to marry you off when you're about 14 and a half, almost 15, to a very wealthy person and blah, blah, blah. So that's what happens when you're about 14 to 15. Now, yes, you go to a very wealthy family, and yes, you never want for anything again, and you are treated very well. It's not like your, new husband and stuff like that is mean and hateful. He is like 6 years older than you. But you are treated very well. what is great about it is that with this wealth and so on, you learn how to read, you learn how to write. Like he knows, he sees that you don't know much of that. So he brings in a tutor and so on, and like you become very, very learned, and it's awesome. With that and with writing, I'm trying to pull your name. I'm trying to pull your name because you were writing almost prolifically. Once you learned how to write and once you learned how to put your ideas onto paper, like you just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And I don't think you became a famous author, but I think some of your works are still out there. A lot of this is poetry. And there is one novel. There are short stories and stuff, but I don't think a lot of them survived. There is one novel. And in print, it's about like this big. The book is about that thick. So what I see is it's the green, almost linen bound. Does that make sense? You guys know what I'm talking about? The cover, like it feels linen-y, but it's green with gold inlay. Like your husband did this as a present to you, and had a few copies made of it. It's basically your story, your life story, but changed slightly. But a lot of your poetry is still there. Oh, this is killing me. It's like I can see these things perfectly, but I can't pull the name, and it's pissing me off. So, okay, so I've got to get on this, otherwise I'll sit here and try to pull this name. So the reason that this life is affecting you now is because once you woke up that morning, you were able to manifest almost anything you wanted. You really were. And this is affecting you now because now you're in this phase where you can literally manifest anything you want going forward. Any of it. So you need to grab a hold of that and do whatever it is that your heart desires. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So, yeah. As far as kids here, you have 6. Don't know why that was important, but it was. You do end up with something with your breathing, whether it's asthma, bronchitis, tuberculosis, I don't know. It's something with your breathing that causes you to pass away when your youngest is about 10. So I hope that helps, Miss Paige. So Miss Amanda, are you about ready? So for those of you guys that would like tickets to past life readings and so on, just know I will be doing another one. I did see that someone got tickets for my readings for last night. I don't know why it allowed you to get a ticket because they've already been done. So just know that I'll refund you for that. That's odd. I don't know why it did that. All right, Miss Amanda Tyre. Ready? Too many. Thank you. This bottom card. Shoot, you can have a heat stroke now just walking outside here. So, yeah. So, Raven, I'll just let you know, I had to cancel the soul retrieval for Saturday. It got scheduled, and then, so for those of you guys that were registered for it, just know I will refund your tickets for that. I have movers coming at 8 a.m., and so there's no way I will even have things set up where I can do it. So, yeah. But, Miss Amanda, here we go. So, you have purification upside down. Then you have the Time Master. Then you have anger and chains. And then you have intentionality. Love, this life is affecting you so hardcore right now. It's not funny. It's not funny. And I'm actually going to start with this end card, and then we're going to talk about this because it is affecting you that deeply. So this is the Warrior card. This is affecting you so bad right now because you feel the need to shore up your defenses. You feel the need to have this warrior attitude and this warrior way of being. This warrior way of being. And it's a complete shift from where you were. It's because there's something very important that's coming up in this life now. Crazy, huge important. And you know you have to have your warrior pants on for it. So, this right here. This right here. You were born male here. I'm not super familiar with where some things are in South America, like I am and I'm not. But historically, let's just say I'm not. I would put this one back about 520, 525 AD. Part of the reason why you feel the need to be this warrior aspect of yourself now is because it was a part of your life here. And that the only thing I can liken it to is almost being like an indentured servant. It wasn't quite being a slave, but it was like your family traded you into this military aspect, into being being a warrior to give them a better way of being. Does that make sense? So that's the only way I can describe it, is like being an indentured servant. And you hated every moment of it. You hated every moment of it. Because I would say around 4 or 5 is literally when you were taken to start training. You were part of like an amazing elite group. And you were a scary accurate shot. Like with bow and arrow. No one could best you in combat. Like, you were pretty scary, Amanda. I'm not going to lie. But you hated every moment of it because you had to be that. And so you felt like you had to be the best, because if you had to do it, then damn it, you were going to do the best. You were going to be the top. But there was so much anger in there, and that anger kind of fueled what you were doing. Like, no one even wanted to spar with you. It was that level. Like, no one even wanted to spar with you. They were that scared of you. So where I would put this would be, so you know where Brazil is now? You know where Brazil kind of comes out like that? It would literally be in that middle area right there. It was not by any of the coast. It was in that middle. I have one piece of my bangs that keeps coming. It's driving me up the wall. That's why I keep doing this. Sorry. In this life here, everything you did was so intentional and balls to the wall that it's affecting you now. It pops up like you literally feel like you take on this masculine persona. You have this crazy warrior aspect, and you work with such an intentional movement in your life, in what's going on, and it's almost like you completely shift personalities. It's affecting you really bad right now just because of the things going on in your life. So when something happens and you feel like it's out of your control, it's almost like this persona takes over. Part of the reason that this is happening is because there was no... I almost said closure, but that's not the right word. There was no freedom in this life. There was no freedom here. And so when this happens where you feel like there's no freedom in a choice, in a situation or whatever, this pops up. Your soul automatically is like, okay then. And you burn it with fire. Like that's what happens. Because here you made yourself be the best to the point where you were pretty scary with it. You never were allowed to get married. You never were allowed to court anyone. You never had children. You never had a home of your own. Like you didn't have a normal life. You didn't have a normal life. And so when things threaten your home life, especially now, that's when this comes out. So mama bear is not even the right term for this. This is like scary ass warrior aspect. Don't fuck with anything around you kind of thing. That's why family and home and things like that are becoming this thing that is so fiercely guarded. I'm just letting you know. I mean, the thing is with this, you do die in battle. It was kind of inevitable because you would fling yourself into every bit. You would literally fling yourself into every bit. So, let's see here. Sorry. All right. There was no way you weren't going to die in battle here. Basically what I was saying. You throw yourself in 900% in every single one. You were the first one in. And I think that people were astounded you lived as long as you did because of the way you fought. But it was your way of freeing yourself from this. You literally saw it as chains. So, this is why you fight so ferociously for the people that you love. Like, it's literally coming back out now. If that makes sense. So, all right. Jeff Harris, you ready? So I have Jeff Harris, Obsidian Berg, Stephanie, Miss Minnie, and then Kaya next. I do have more on there, so don't, if you didn't hear your name, don't freak out just yet. Okay. So let me do this. After Kaya, I have Rochelle, Shannon, Crystal, Bobby, Christine Carver, Victoria, Lorianne Brown, and then Summer Thompson. Let me find you there, Jeff. Hey, love, how are you? Lots of fire right off the bat. Lots of fire. Why can't I get a card? Thank you. We're gonna, no. I'm gonna go this one. So, there's an interesting shift here. So you start off with Pele, which is transformation. Then you have the Beloved. Then you have Masquerade. And then you have experiencing life as it comes. You see the color change? See the color shift? And then we're going to talk about this here in a minute. This whole life right here is about change and transformation. Every bit of it. So in this one, you were born feminine. You were born female. Let me say it that way. So I don't know if this would be the life before the one you're in now, or maybe a couple before. And this is like extreme southern Texas area, on the border, not on the ocean side. So let me just say this, as a kid, you were that kid that was uncontrollable. Like, you were absolutely a firecracker. You were into everything. You were in and out of places you shouldn't have been. You were just a wily, crazy, fire-filled little kid. In fact, I think what's funny is, like, a lot of the images I see of you as a kid, I mean, you're just dirty. You have dirt all over you. Like, your clothes are dirty. Your mom's pissed off. You know what I mean? Like, you, tomboy does not even fit. Does not even fit. Does not even fit. You're the youngest here, and then there's a wide gap. A wide gap. I would say like 8-9 years between you and your youngest sibling. And I feel like your other siblings are all boys, but I keep getting the number 3 and then the number 4, which makes me wonder if either your mom didn't lose one as a child, like as a baby or something like that, because I'll get the number 3 and then the number 4 and then the number 3. It's weird. It keeps flopping back and forth. So I have a feeling that your mom either had a miscarriage or lost one. Like, one passed away as a baby, because it's just weird to have that number flip-flop back and forth. But you are by far the youngest. Like I said, 8 to 9 years between you and your youngest brother, or your next up sibling. So you were seen as that, like, I don't want to say miracle baby, but miracle baby. I don't think your mom even realized she was pregnant with you, because she thought she could never have another kid, which makes me wonder if there wasn't one between your younger brother and you, and that's the one that didn't make it. But there's some reason your mom thought that she couldn't have another kid, didn't really pay attention or think she was pregnant until suddenly it was like, you know, you're pregnant. And so you kind of had free range, and I think that's why you were the way that you were. It wasn't that you were spoiled because your family didn't have a lot, but you were allowed to do things that your brothers would be like, why does she get to do that and I don't get to do that? Like, you never let us do that. Those kind of things. Like, you kind of got free range of a lot of things. So growing up wise, there's a lot of land. There's a lot of land. There's also a lot of horses and things like that. So I have a feeling this is probably a ranch. There's also a lot of people coming and going, which makes me wonder if you guys didn't have some type of ranch that was known for either being a stop, or, you know, a stop on the way up through Mexico or down to Mexico. There's a lot of people coming and going. You kind of were like a little spy. It's really funny, because I keep seeing you, because I'm like, man, I think that would be dangerous to let a little girl just run around like that. But you literally were so wily, and you were so good at hiding and stuff, that you would hear things and know things and see things, and no one knew you were there. And so it got to the point where your dad could ask you stuff and you would know all the shit. Like, you literally were an information hustler. Like, you knew all the shit. And so it's kind of comical. It's kind of funny. But because of seeing and hearing all of these things from a very young age, you had a different perspective of life than your brothers did. They were seeing it superficially and from the work standpoint, because they were so much older, whereas you were seeing how things actually were. And you got to the point when you were an early teenager, you didn't trust anyone. Like, you didn't trust anyone. Like, you trusted your parents, you trusted your brothers, but you know what I mean? Like, outside of that, you didn't really trust anyone. And you got to be a very good read of people. And so your dad tried to marry you off when you're about 15, and you flat refused, because this person that he was trying to marry you to had come through the ranch a couple of times, and you knew what kind of person he was, and you begged and pleaded, like, please don't, please don't, please don't, please don't. And your dad did listen to you, but it cost him a lot, because in telling this person no, this person got really angry about it. And so it's almost like he had to make restitution to the guy for telling him no. And he also had to make up a story and label you as crazy. So the guy would feel like, oh, well, I dodged a bullet. Does that make sense? Like your dad kind of had to label you as crazy, even though you weren't. So because of that, then it was few and far between on the people that actually wanted to marry you. You literally had to learn to pretend to be crazy around people if you didn't like any of them, so they would leave you alone. So you learned to be two different people. So instead of hiding the crazy, you let the crazy out and you hid the normal. But you do get married when you're about 18. To another rancher that owns a ranch like pretty close to you. Well, I say pretty close. It's like 20 miles away, but close. And it's somebody that's been at odds with your family. Like they've been at odds with each other. Not Hatfield and McCoy odds, but just odds because y'all do the same thing. So your dad thought that by marrying you to this family, it would help to kind of alleviate that. And you have a problem letting go of that spy way you had there. And you kind of were getting into everything. But here's the thing. You got caught listening a couple of times to conversations, business-wise, etc. And the third time you get caught, it's because you're listening to a conversation and you walked up and heard it and then started to walk away and heard your father's name. And so you stood there and listened. And when you got caught, you kind of confronted them about it because it was like they were playing on your dad being so naive as to marry you to them so things would get better. Does that make sense? I mean, and you felt absolutely betrayed. You felt absolutely betrayed. Even though the person, your husband, assured you that that's not how he saw it and he didn't want to be that way or whatever. Like you felt absolutely betrayed and you kind of shut down. You kind of put this steel around you, shut down, that's it. And you just kind of went through the motions from there. You did manage to go home and visit your parents and tell your dad this. Your dad at first didn't believe you and then started believing you and so on. But you've always had a higher perspective on people, and it's affecting you now because not only of seeing that higher perspective, but you know that with this card in particular, you know that life is going to continually change and you continually have to have this rebirth and this shift and this movement. And it, even though it's exciting to have that shift, it still makes you sad every time it shifts. It literally makes you sad every time it shifts. So with this, because of how rambunctious you are, and here you live to be early 30s. What's interesting about this is I can't see what happens, but you literally are shot with an arrow and it hits a weird part of your chest. It doesn't hit your heart or anything like that, but it causes a lung to collapse, and that's what ends up killing you. So I don't know if you were out and about spying on people or you were, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it was not a very pleasant way of passing. Interesting life there, Jeff. Interesting life there, Jeff. I can see where a lot of that could be affecting you right now. Hardcore. All right. Obsidian. Woo. Really? Why are you nervous? That's funny. Don't be nervous. Woo, okay. All right. So I'm going to do obsidians, and then I'm going to take a quick potty break, and I will be right back. Okay. Okay. So for those of you guys that are waiting on your reading or whatever, this is being streamed live to YouTube, so that way you guys can watch them at your convenience if you're at work or whatever. All right, love, you ready? So you start off with Maeve, which is determination. And then you have the beloved. Then you have alone in the world. And then you have intentionality. And this is the one that flung out of the deck before I really even got to shuffle. So there you go. And then we're going to talk about this other one here in a second. So in this one, you were also born a woman. So you were literally, you were the person that took care of everyone else to your own detriment here. I would put this one, this is somewhere middle Europe, probably France, Germany, Italy, all that where those kind of meet right there. And I would put this late 1300s. So you're the oldest of 5. And it's funny, like I see your mother coming in and out, in and out, in and out. Like your mother's not a good person here. So you kind of end up taking care of all of your siblings, of all of them. You end up being mom, cooking, feeding them, cleaning them, mending clothes, making clothes. Like you literally become mom. You literally become mom here. And you're an amazing mom, even at a very young age. Like you're amazing at it. But I think it's because you have to be. But the problem is, like, and I don't see any male, like, dad there at all. I kind of have a feeling that mom was a little promiscuous, and I have a feeling that not all of your siblings had the same father. Because you guys do live kind of close to a village, like within walking distance. It takes about half a day to get there. And I see mom being gone for long periods at a time. And then after a while, you're probably about 16, mom just doesn't come home. Like mom just doesn't come back. And no one knows if something happened to her or if she just leaves. It's just like she just is just gone. So it kind of falls up to you. It kind of falls up to you to take care of everybody, to make sure they're okay. And you literally put your whole life on the back burner. You literally put your life on pause to make sure that they're all good. In fact, like your 2 youngest siblings don't even really remember your mother being around at all. They just remember you. And even though you're not really old enough to be their mom, you are their mom. Like they call you mom. So in this life, you never get married. You never have children of your own because you kind of were forced to be mom from the time you were about 8. So you felt like you already had kids, and you did it by yourself for so long that you felt so lonely at times. But at the same time, you were so exhausted that you really didn't have time to feel lonely. So it wasn't until the youngest is old enough that you realize and you see, all of your other siblings are getting married and moving on and having families and doing things and traveling. that you realize you have not had your own life. That you have not had your own life. So this is really deeply affecting you right now. And I would bet that you have a lot of indecision. A lot of, whenever there's a choice to be made, you have a hard time choosing because you want to do both so bad. Like you want to go here and here. You want to take this job and this job and this job. Like you want to do everything because you literally were negated having your own path here. It's something that you had to experience, that your soul had to experience. And it's something that those siblings in this life, they had to have you. But at the same time, your soul didn't get to experience anything here. Because by the time you realize that you're free enough, you can travel or you can do whatever, you just don't want to. You're tired. You're tired. And I have a feeling that this tiredness still follows you. It's like that deep in your soul, so exhausted, tired, I can't see straight, kind of tired. So that's where this comes in, because this is the reflect card. I have a feeling you've been reflecting a lot lately on it, and it's almost like overthinking reflecting. Does that make sense? Like overthinking and looking back at all these things that happened in the past because you're trying to reconcile what this is right here. As you've been growing on your spiritual path and as you've been moving forward, these feelings have come up again and you don't know why. You don't know why. This is why. Because you weren't allowed any freedom here to have a normal or even semi-normal life. So stop reflecting back about this, about the life you're in now, not this, about the life you're in now. Because you're not going to find what it is that's causing you to feel those feelings. It's this right here. And there's not really a good way to process through a lot of this except to realize that it's something your soul had to experience, and that now in this life and in every other life since and going forward, you have the choice. You can do the things you want to do. You're not stuck in this anymore. It is frustrating though. It's very frustrating. So when this pops up and you're having a hard time making decisions and so on, just know that you need to act very intentionally and you need to not feel like you have to do everything. You can put yourself first. Here you were never ever first. You can put yourself first in this life. You can take the job that you selfishly want. You can go on vacation to the place you want to go on. It doesn't always have to be about everybody else. And be careful not to get back into this mode of taking everybody else, taking on everybody else's stuff. Does that make sense? Caring for everybody else to the point that it's detrimental to you. Good, I'm glad. For those of you guys on TikTok, she said that's definitely going to help with a few big changes I want to go through with. I'm so glad. I'm glad this helped. That's what I was saying. A lot of times this pulls up the life that's affecting you the most right now. So let me take just a little quick potty break, and then I have Stephanie, Minnie, Kaya, Rochelle, Shannon, Crystal, Bobby, Christine, Victoria, Lorianne, and Summer Thompson. So yeah. All right, I'll be right back. You can start packing or whatever you need to do. All right, did you miss me? So, Miss Stephanie, you ready? We're obviously going to go over the 2 p.m. mark. Oh, I'm so glad, love. I mean, not glad that you feel stuck, but I just need one, man. You keep making all these cards jump, and then it's like 3 or 4. Seriously, I'm not doing that. I don't know if you were watching that, but that was a lot. It just kept on like, ah! Nope. Hell no. That's like half the deck, man. Look at this. Like, it just keeps. Oh, I see why. Okay. Please, just one. Like, don't make me knock you, man. Thank you. Nope. That's... No. Better. Appreciate that. Hate that you made me knock you. I don't knock my cards very much. Usually I just have to threaten and they do it. But sometimes, like, especially with past life readings, it's a lot. Okay. All right. Miss Stephanie. You ready? You ready? The best way to heal past trauma so they don't affect us now. Past life traumas are a little bit unique. What I would recommend doing is some of the, now I don't just recommend going and finding a past life guided meditation. What I recommend doing is finding one that helps you travel, that helps you lucid dream. So that way, and have that in your mind, have whatever past life trauma you're wanting to deal with, have it kind of in your mind as your goal. This is what I'm wanting to heal. So that way, when you go through this and find one of these, find one of the meditations that allow you, like they're guided at first, like the first 10 minutes or so, you know, to get you into the meditative state and then allow you to drift from there. Those are the best ones for this. That way, your mind and your soul can work through it how it needs to, if that makes sense. That's the best way that I have personally found that myself and other clients have had really, really good results with. So, there you go. All right, Miss Stephanie. You have Fate upside down. You have Pachamama, which is Mother Earth. You have the Masquerade. Then you have Preparations Come to Fruition. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. So, Miss Stephanie. Okay. So, let me say this. This life is affecting you really bad right now because you kind of thumbed your nose at fate. So while we all have a fair dose of free will, there are things that have to happen in each life. They're fated to happen in each life. You can't get away from it. Even if you have free will, complete free will from the time you're born, there's still going to be a couple of things that have to happen in that life. You somehow were able to thumb your nose at those things in this life here. And so now fate's like, we're going to do some catch up. So all of the shit that's been going on lately, Stephanie, is kind of, and I would not be surprised if you've been like, what the fuck is the universe doing? Like, why is all this shit keep happening and blah, 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 blah. And you feel like the universe is fucking around with you. It kind of is. It kind of is. Okay. But to be fair, you were a little ornery and you were able to literally sidestep things that had to happen in this life here. Like, I'm kind of impressed. I'm just saying, I'm kind of impressed. So let's talk about this. So here you were born feminine. You were born female. And you were born in one of those families where your father only wanted boys. And so when you were born, even though you're the only girl and you had two brothers, he was not happy about it. And so you basically were made to look, act, etc. like you were made to be a boy. And you hated every moment of it because it's what you were told you had to do. So you looked for anything at all you could to thumb your nose at that. This here was in the mid 1700s, and I would put this up in New England. I would say Massachusetts, Rhode Island, somewhere. And when I say mid to late 1700s, I would say 1770s. So you weren't allowed to have your hair long. You weren't allowed to wear dresses. You like it's really funny. Like, you were kind of hidden away on, oh, I am not going to do this today. Sorry, I'm sitting here doing this reading and paying attention, and my internet's going out over there. Coolsies. Coolsies, and no one else here is really using internet. Love it. Okay. So, do we have solar flares hitting us again today? Like, I can't handle another day of technological issues. So here's the thing. You kind of were hidden on the family farm. You didn't go to school. You didn't really see anybody. Like, family knew about you, and they were kind of told that, you know, there was something wrong with you and you were being kept at home for, you know, your safety and all those stuff. So thank you, love. And it made you angry, even from a little kid. Like, you knew it was wrong and it made you angry. So as soon as you could, like, you're maybe 13 or 14, like, you're smart. Thank you for the gift, love. You're really smart. I would bet that in this life too, you're extremely smart because you take about a year and a half and you plan out running away. That's how good you are with it. You kind of start rat holing money. You kind of start, like, you literally start stockpiling things. You have little stashes that you can easily get to. You make a plan to run away. So when you're about 13, you decide, okay, time is right, plan that out. You literally go hit your little stashes around the farm because you didn't keep everything in one stash. Like, you're super intelligent, girl. You keep everything. You grab all your little stashes and you fucking leave. You leave. You just take off walking because you know you're not really going to be missed, at least until the next morning. You made an amazing prison break here. Let me just say that. You made an amazing prison break here. I'm impressed. You literally leave and do not look back. You end up going through a couple of little towns, hitching rides, and as smart as you are, you play up this story, I'm an orphan and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, you really play it up. You really play it up. You end up in Boston. You end up in Boston, and this is kind of where you stay. As soon as you get to Boston, you are staying on the streets. You're kind of trying to figure things out. And you're there for like 3 or 4 days, and you start to get very discouraged because your hair's starting to grow out. You're starting to look more girlish. Does that make sense? So you're kind of getting very discouraged. And this is kind of when fate steps in again. Let me say it that way. Even though you thumbed your nose at living the life you were supposed to live, and even though you made it pretty far away, you meet a woman who's very well off, just purely by chance. And for some reason, she feels the need to stop and talk to you. And in stopping and talking to you, she finds you just really just go and blurt your whole story out to her, which you've never told anybody. You just blurt your story out. And she offers you a job. She owns a bakery. Well, her and her husband own a bakery. She offers you a job. So you, of course, accept. She takes you over, and instead of showing you how to do things immediately, she takes you over to their house behind the bakery. She allows you to clean up. She allows you to, rest and so on. And then, like, she literally is just extremely kind to you. You're able to start working, making money. They give you a place to stay. Like, it's literally the most amazing thing ever. And once you have enough money and once you decide what you want to do and so on, you kind of become a self-made woman here. You're also someone here, you're extremely tall for a woman. You're extremely tall, like kind of towering over other people. You're not humongous, like big broad shoulders, but you're just tall. You're just a very tall woman. And you kind of use that to your advantage. What I love about this is all the hardship, everything that's thrown at you, you overcome. Every bit of it, you overcome. And you move forward. And I love this so much. You do get married eventually. You have one daughter. And you get married to a pretty wealthy person, pretty wealthy man, who is also extremely kind and wonderful. And you raise your daughter exactly how you would have wanted to be raised, with a lot of freedom, a lot of artistic things, a lot of dresses, a lot of things like that. Like, you turn a shit life into an amazing life, but you still carry that I have to be this, I have to be this, I have to be this, and this hardship, you still carry it. You still carry it. So that's what this is. You have to release that feeling of hardship that's there. That sometimes I have a feeling it pops through without you even realizing what it is. And I think that sometimes you don't have any clue. It just pops through, this hardship, and you're thinking back like, I've really never dealt with trauma like that. Like, why is this a thing? Because right here, it's a thing. It's also a thing because you're at a point where you feel like you should have way more than you do right now. You feel like you should be further ahead because you put in all this work and this effort here and just rapidly grew. You've still got to release that as well. You're doing exactly what you need to in the life you're in now. So you've got to release these other issues, these ways of being. And I have a feeling that that's really hard for you, or it has been, because you haven't known what's going on. So the thing about this is that as far as passing goes here, this is, I can say pretty much with 99% certainty that this is like tuberculosis, because a lot of the things that start happening, I see, you know, the coughing, I see the handkerchief with the blood, like all of those things. I see you in a hospital bed, so on. So the thing is, you did have good medical treatment, so you didn't hurt a lot here. But that's exactly what happened, love. So I think that's also why you're very paranoid, and why sometimes when your anxiety flares up, you're like, oh, I'm not breathing good. Like, you really are paranoid about your breathing, and you really start to like overanalyze, like, is there something wrong? Is there something wrong? It's just a weird fear that you have that you can't explain. It's because of this. It's because of this. Because you kind of knew something was wrong for a little bit, and nobody really listened to you until you start coughing up the blood. So that's why. That's why. So I hope that helps, Miss Stephanie. All right, guys. Let me see how many more I got to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm literally about halfway through right now, and it is 2 o'clock. So here's what I've got to do, because I only allotted myself about 2 hours, and I talk a little too much. But I have an appointment here in a minute with my doctor, so I have to run. What I'm going to do is reach out to you guys that are still on my list, and I can do one of two things. I'm happy to refund you, or I'm happy to finish these this evening after Zodiac read. So it will be up to y'all what you want to do. So I will get you guys emails and so on. So Miss Minnie, Kaya, Rochelle, Shannon, Crystal, Bobby, Christine, Victoria, Lorianne, and Summer. If you guys are here and you would like me to read you later, or if you would like me to refund you, or if you just want me to read you later, just tell me, hey, just read me later, or whatever. This evening works for you. Okay, tell me your first name, Miss Short Girl. Miss Short Girl. I love that, by the way. That just cracks me the fuck up. Nothing's wrong either. I'm just going in for a checkup. What sucks is that Bobby, Rochelle, okay. Lori. Summer, gotcha. There's Miss Minnie. I always love writing your name. I have to do that. Oh, thank you. I grew up with a dad who was a draftsman, so I have two completely different sets of handwriting. It's Christine. I have two completely different sets of handwriting. I have this, you know, structured, all capitals little thing, and then I have this flowy doctor handwriting that you can't read. That you can't read. So, gotcha, Miss Paige. Thank ya. Let me put you up here. So, with that, I'm going to go, and I'm going to get ready and go to the doctor. Thank you, Miss Kaya. I'm glad that you popped in there. Because insurance is stupid, and so I have to go to the doctor repeatedly to be able to get a continuous glucose monitor. Even though, like, my doctor's awesome, but insurance is dumb. Is what it is. Is what it is. Stupid doctor. Yay, there's Miss Victoria. Gotcha. And I will do the same. I will stream them on YouTube. So if you guys can't stay up this late or whatever, or you can't stay up very late, no worries. I will totally stream this on YouTube, and I will make sure that we get the names of the first people on this one, and then the first people, or the people on the other one. So, well, it's just one of those appointments where I have to go in and go, here's my sugars, here's my list, and it's dumb. It's dumb. So, I will see you guys this evening. Zodiac reads at 8:30, and the rest of you wonderful little past lifers after that. So, I'll see you guys later. Let me see if I can close both of these out at the same time.